I want each of you to think of something you have been or are currently addicted to. Imagine that, instead of someone helping you overcome this addiction, you are sent to prison as punishment for having this addiction. My name is Thomas Wright, and I'm going to talk with you about why I think drug addicts should not be admitted into medical treatment facilities instead of being sent to prison as punishment. The problem is that drug addicts are coming back into society where the same temptations have been waiting for them. Being locked up in prison isn't a cure for drug addiction. The Bureau of Justice Statistics Special Report did a study in 1994 which showed that among nearly 300,000 prisoners released in 15 states in 1994, 67.5% were rearrested within 3 years. While that statistic is dated, it still shows of a real problem in our judicial system. We are not doing what we can to rehabilitate these drug addicts. We are throwing them in prison and then releasing them without proper care for what is actually happening within them. We need to be giving them the tools to be able to overcome their addictions, instead of just sending them away into the system. There is obvious opposition to sending drug addicts to treatment facilities instead of punishing them as criminals. Some say that once a drug addict, always a drug addict, but I disagree with that point of view. Professor Juliana Van Olfen published a study in 2009 where she stated that the criminalization of drug use means that relapse to drug use is the primary reason for revocation of parole and return to prison. When we criminalize these addicts, we are pushing them even further into the arms of the addiction they are using. Isn't the goal to get them to not go back to prison, to rehabilitate? How can we do that without actually staring their addiction straight into the face? Through their research, RehabCenter.net found that of the approximately 800,000 individuals in the criminal justice system that needed or could have been benefited from drug abuse treatment, less than 1/3 actually received treatment, and that the U.S. Justice Department mentions that 2/3 of all drug offenders released from jail will return to prison or jail within 3 years. This year, another statistic showing us that prison isn't helping these drug addicts. Some may also argue about the cost of sending drug addicts to rehab centers. However, the National Center of Addiction and Substance Abuse released its first report on substance abuse among the nation's prison population, and the report found that only 11% of inmates with substance abuse and addiction disorder receive any treatment during their incarcerations. However, if all inmates in need of treatment receive such service, the nation would see economic benefits in just 1 year. Even if only 10% of the inmates treated remain sober, crime-free, and employed, the report found. For each inmate who remains sober, employed, and crime-free, the nation would save $91,000 per year. The report found that is $91,000 per inmate. That is a crazy amount of money being saved. Not only is money being saved, but lives are being saved. I'm not just talking about living. I'm talking about the quality of life for these drug addicts after they have overcome their addiction, which again, they statistically will have a harder time doing without treatment. The Prison Policy Initiative reported that drug arrests give residents of over-policed communities criminal records, which then reduces employment prospects and increase the likelihood of longer sentences for any future offenses. We obviously know that having a criminal record is a negative piece in anyone's life puzzles, and many argue that addicts are criminals, so they should be punished as such. I am all for punishing criminals, don't get me wrong, but are addicts really criminals? Again, drug use is an addiction, and in my opinion, as long as there is not any violent or criminal activity happening, they need to be sent to rehab centers, not only for their short-term success, but their long-term success in life. I truly feel that if this change would take place in our judicial system, we would see more and more drug addicts overcome their addiction. We need to find alternatives to keeping these addicts out of prison treatment centers are a great option. This means more and more people are going to be turning their lives around and bringing something positive to our society. This also means a less business for drug dealers, which is in turn hurts the industry. There's something you and I can do to help pave this road to recovery for these addicts. We can write our state senator and ask them to consider treatment taking the place of prison for drug addicts. Let's make a change for America that will really impact our future.